Organisations can make a real difference when they campaign together. Today I have the pleasure of being joined by Rob, who will tell us about how forming a coalition helped to make a real difference in Leicester. Hi Rob, thank you for joining us today. So Rob, what prompted you to set up a coalition? What were your aims?
Yeah, when we came together 3 years ago, there were two really important things for our coalition. First was encouraging and championing the development of a new homelessness strategy for Leicester, because we felt that the one that the city had in place was out of date and needed a refresh. But it was also really important to us that the city, both the public sector and the voluntary sector, developed a new consensus around the best way to procure homeless services, because many of us who've been working in the city for a long time felt that if we didn't do something in that area, lots of the expertise, the knowledge, the capacity that we had to change and transform the lives of homeless people would be lost. So that's why we came together to start with. But having that coalition in place meant that we've been able to do a couple of other really important things. One is work together much more effectively to crack the record numbers of rough sleepers that we saw in Leicester at the beginning of 2012, and now really successfully bring together a coalition to introduce No Second Night Out. So it's been really valuable for us in the city to get that coalition together.
So what did you do, and what were the results?
Well, the starting point for this was essentially three of the major voluntary organisations in Leicester coming together at CEO level over a cup of coffee to say there are some things here that we really want to change, and to talk about how we were going to do that. And we set those campaign goals that I've just talked to you about, and said that if we can achieve that over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll go a long way to improving the lives of homeless people, and indeed actually the operations of our respective organisations. And once we'd done that and developed a really clear goal and set of relationships, because that trust was really crucial for us as three organisations. Once we got that trust and set of priorities, we set about inviting other like-minded organisations in the city to come and be part of that coalition and come and be part of that journey for change that we wanted to bring about. And it's been that energy from those different groups that have led us to a place today where we have a new homelessness strategy in Leicester. We've gone from a city which had one of the worst rough sleeping figures of any city outside of London to the city with the biggest reduction anywhere in England of rough sleeping figures this year. And to get outcomes like that from very humble beginnings around a cup of coffee, I think has been really great.
How do you think working in partnership gave you an advantage?
I think it's really crucial for all of us to recognise that given the current environment of public sector spending cuts, and when there are in effect more of us competing for an ever decreasing proportion of the same bit of cash, that actually the only solutions to the problems that we're facing in terms of homelessness and organisation is to work together. So it gives you a competitive advantage in terms of tendering, in terms of sharing knowledge, sharing ideas, sharing intelligence about your respective organisations, but from the position of trust and knowing people aren't going to abuse that. But it also gives you a real advantage when it comes to advocating change in your area. If you can bring together every single provider agency of homeless services in a city, as we were able to do, alongside representatives from faith-based organisations, from community-based organisations who occasionally joined our coalition and say, this is the trajectory that we need to go to as a city, it becomes a really powerful tool for galvanising and energising change. And whilst, sure, we haven't got everything we want to out of this experience, we certainly have advanced Leicester's homelessness debate, strategy and service provision considerably through the partnership work we've been able to do.
So, what advice would you give to a local community group which was thinking about forming a coalition to campaign for change in their area?
Well, first of all, it's never too late to start. I think there's a lot of organisations that are currently looking at the challenges in their areas, seeing public spending cuts and the looming challenges that go with it, and saying, what do I do? My first advice is don't be a rabbit in headlights, and get out and begin to have senior level, and by senior I mean CEO level, discussions with other organisations in your area to start forming partnerships, alliances and the trust that could well be the beginnings of a really effective partnership to champion and coalition and champion and develop change in your area. That's the starting point from my perspective. And then I think once that's in place, begin to have a real clarity of agenda in terms of what you want for your city, for your area, that you can begin to galvanise and inspire other people to get involved with. If you can do those two things, then I think you can begin to start making some changes that will make a difference to people.
Thank you, Rob.